Hello, and welcome to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast.
An Irish political current affairs, Bertie Ahern style pod series.
Slash occasional interview.
This is episode 4. How long is this document now? 54 pages.
54 pages.
I'm just going to release a book under a pseudonym.
Jason Brennan.
Jason Brennan. Is the name I use to release my Bertie Ahern and then erotica fan fiction about what if James Connolly, Big Daddy Connolly.
No, that my pseudonym for that
was in Twilight.
My pseudonym for that's the Count of Monte Carlo.
Oh yeah. If you want to follow our deeply erotic writings about the Count of Monte Carlo, there'll be links in the description of this episode to all the stuff. You can follow us on Instagram and Patreon, and come see us live.
We're going to be live in a few hours in Cork, but it'll be too late for that.
Don't tell them that.
It's already sold out, so it doesn't really make a difference.
We're already there.
So
we're not doing this last minute. Yeah, well, we've got Limerick, Galway, and Dundalk all this month, and also London.
Everyone in London or around the UK, we decided to put together. So we're giving you 3 weeks' notice.
Yeah,
and if you don't show up to this one, we're never coming back.
You said you wanted it. Now it's happening in like 2.5 weeks. If you don't show up, it's never going to happen again. But to sweeten the pot, we're also doing that show with Oisín of the Troubles podcast.
Yes.
In theory, our audiences overlap. Now, in practice, they might hate us.
Yeah.
But we'll figure it out.
But we like Oisín, and Oisín likes us.
That's true.
So
we went on a fact-finding mission there during the week, as in we just got blind drunk with him in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. He's a good lad. He's a good egg. We weren't sure about it. After you left, we went for margaritas. We went down to 777. And we went for cocktails. We went got pizza and Bambinos to see what the fuss is about.
Any use?
Don't know. It was locked. It was great. Funny enough, 6 pints in, the pizza was amazing.
I left you to go play chess.
Oh, we played chess.
Right,
he's not very good at chess.
Okay.
If he's listening to this,
shots
I'm sorry.
Fired.
I mean, to be honest, shots were being fired down my throat, and I still beat him at chess. So, we got Bambinos, we went down to the Stag's Head, met some people from the States, and went to the big... It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's a good lad. He's a good man, and we'll be doing a live episode with him in London. But that is after we do our own live episodes in Limerick, Galway, and Dundalk.
Yes. Galway people, put away the hacky sack. Get that joint out of your hand. Right?
420's over, people of Galway. Get back to work.
Yeah,
all right?
Back to buying tickets in advance, not the day over, week of. It's for everyone's sake, mainly mine.
Mainly yours. And Limerick, you're doing fine. Anyway. Back to what the people really want. Really, really long, month-long episodes about Bertie Ahern.
Mm-hmm.
This episode 4?
Yes.
Episode 4 of the main series, titled Bertie Ahern, the Third Term / the Celtic Pelican. The Celtic Pelican is a phrase that I think my brother came up with when we were teenagers. He's like, what happens after the Celtic Tiger? The Celtic Pelican. Because it went to shit.
What's his beef with pelicans?
I don't know. I guess tiger, powerful, strong, economy, pelican, eats fish, is a cement mixer in the Flintstones, can't really fly well. That is more of a descriptor of Ireland after 2008, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. This is the Celtic Pelican episode, right? So in the last main episode, we were talking about the lead up to the 2007 general election. The Fianna Fáil plan was keep her light, keep her on track. Fine Gael and Labour had come up with some sort of accord. Enda Kenny's leading Fine Gael at that point. Pat Rabbitte is in charge of Labour. And they're promising all sorts of crazy tax cuts, all sorts of sweeteners to try and knock Fianna Fáil off the throne. And Fianna Fáil, they're taking the high road. They're like, that's impractical. What they're doing is just trying to buy the election. We're bringing you strong, sensible policies that have kept the country afloat, got us to where we are today. More of the same.
Boo.
Yeah, Bertie... This is the plan. This is what he tells all the ministers. But as we talked about again in the Mahon tribunals, all the stuff in the background is freaking about. He knows at this point he's already done the Dobson interview, but only a little bit has come out publicly. Only the stuff that was leaked over the summer and the Dobson interview. He knows there's much worse to come. So they'll agree on this policy of sensible, keep her easy. And at the last minute, he freaks out and just starts going nuts. He promises everything to everybody. One of the big things that they bring in right before the election, he says he's going to get rid of stamp duty on houses for first-time buyers. Now, this is the time, 2007, I don't know if it's the peak of it, but it's certainly the only thing the country has going for it, is that people are buying a lot of houses.
Mm-hmm.
taxing that would mean a lot of revenue for the economy, just in case, we're very broke in a matter of months. And he chooses this time to get rid of that. Now, he says it's nothing to do with the election. This is what Fianna Fáil had always intended to do. There's a quote here that says, in the current market situation, any stamp duty cuts would more than likely not be incorporated into the sale price and just end up in the pockets of the seller. This will not help first-time buyers purchasing new homes. And that was from Brian Cowan in December, aka 4 months ago.
So explain. I'm right. 4 months before Bertie does this,
yeah,
his finance minister says the exact opposite.
Yeah,
would
right around about just after the budget. They're like, if you cut stamp duty, that's not going to help first-time buyers. As we would see today, I guess, if you cut stamp duty, the price will stay the same, but now what would have been covered by stamp duty is just going to the seller.
Yeah.
So a 200 grand house is not going to go down. It's going to stay at 200 grand, but whoever's selling gets more money. This is what Brian Cowan says in December. 4 months later, and lead up to election, they're like, no, this is always the policy.
Things change.
Things change. You know what? I've consulted. I think the Bertie of this time he's become a bit of a shut-in. We've talked about this in the other ones. He's panicking. He knows all the Mahon Tribunal stuff is coming out. He's not responding. He's not working with his ministers. He's not the Bertie we've seen before this, out shaking hands, high-fiving babies. He's holed up in St. Luke's, freaking out. And he comes up with this stamp duty idea. They also promised they cut the standard rate of tax from 20% to 18%, 4,000 extra teachers in the classroom, 2,000 more guards, and, all the sorts of promises to the HSE and all this sort of stuff. The sort of beautiful 1-2 punch of lower taxes, lower the money coming into the economy, and then also somehow get more services, despite the fact that we've been charged for 10 years and it hasn't happened yet. Now, at the end of the good times, I've actually figured it out. I know how to do it.
Okay.
Let's lower the tax.
I like where he's going with this.
And this isn't some sort of crazy promise, Jason. This is real. You can take this to the bank. All right? And I know
for as long as it's going to still be there.
Exactly. For the next 9 months. So it works. He calls the last minute election, goes to Arsenal Route on the Sunday, calls it right before the Quarryville section of the Mahon Tribunal is going to go public. So this delays the tribunal for a couple of months. He comes out strong, comes out fighting. There's a TV debate between him and Enda Kenny. He comes out on top, edges ahead in the polls. The economy's doing well at that point, which people like. The Northern Ireland situation is pretty solid. The St. Andrews Agreement had been signed, I think, a couple of months before that, and it had come into effect in May, which saw strengthening to the Northern Ireland Assembly, specifically the DUP agreed to the power sharing agreement. So they were the main party, I think, that held out, if not the only party that held out in the Good Friday Agreement. Basically, that's looking well. He's doing a victory lap of that. He meets with Ian Paisley down at the site of the Battle of the Boyne, and they have a little photo op there. He's over in Westminster talking about it. So he's out and looking good and strong in Northern Ireland. And again, people are rich.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck it. Give him another shot. He gets in. Third term is Taoiseach. There's a rainbow coalition of Fianna Fáil, the Green Party, the Progressive Democrats, and then a couple of independent TDs, including Jackie Healy-Rae and Beverly Flynn, Pádraig Flynn's daughter. As well as Mike Lowry, is a who's who of all the people who've been in these political episodes so far. It seems like he was just, I don't know, he might have bumped into them in the hallway outside of the tribunals.
He's rebooting a TV show 20 years later, and it's his daughter.
Oh. If you like Pádraig Flynn, you're going to go crazy for so he's back in third term as Taoiseach. In an interview on the 22nd of May, right after they get back, in an interview with Village magazine, he says he doesn't intend to retire until he's 60 years old. So that's around 2012 is his end date. June 2007. This has been one of the constant themes of these episodes. He loves the zoo. He heads off to the zoo and opens up an enclosure for the elephants. And they're talking about all the baby elephants that are coming out. And it's a lovely, heartwarming moment. Probably the last one that he has is Dermot Taoiseach. They head off for 11 weeks of holidays from the Dáil as well. Like, forget that in the summer they just go.
11? Is that?
Yeah, that was in there.
That's when to go meet the constituents.
This is when, in July of 2007, while on his holidays, Mr. Ahern goes off script during an address to the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. This is one of his more infamous lines. This is one of the ones that's thrown at him a lot now in the post-Bertie days. But yeah, I'll play this and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Sitting on the sidelines or on the fence, cribbing and moaning is a lost opportunity. In fact, I don't know how people who engage in that don't commit suicide, because, quite frankly, the only thing that motivates me is being able to actually change something.
Applause break.
Yeah, that's one. It gets quoted a lot. Like, I read that so much in the research for this, but you forget, like, no one really mentions. But when you watch, like, people laugh.
Yeah, people laugh, and then multiple points try to get an applause going.
Yeah, and like, so straight away afterwards, it becomes a big scandal, and everyone's like, you shouldn't do that. But, you know, at the time, people did laugh and clap along. But he understandably gets in trouble for this.
I thought it was a different quote, though. I thought it was, "Why don't you just kill yourself?"
That's what it kind of gets paraphrased as,
because it's more catchy than what he actually said.
Yeah. That was his only issue. He's like, clean that up a little. But I don't know, is this to his credit? But I mean, 6 episodes ago, I referenced that his grandfather had committed suicide. I don't know, is this to his credit? But he doesn't bring that up at this time. I don't think it's not public knowledge at this point. That comes out later on. I feel like he could have used that to try and, like, these days you probably be
deflect.
Like, yeah, he doesn't, which is something.
It'd be poor form.
It would be poor form. It'd be poor form to tell everyone to go kill themselves. To be fair,
on the eve of.
Yeah. Now, like a lot of the story, you dial back the clock. He says that in 2004. Probably people don't bring it up as much.
Two applause breaks.
At this time, things are starting to get a little bit more. The economy's not doing as good. No, it's not like 2008, 2009. But in the summer of 2007, the cracks are starting to appear. I think in the big one in this part of the world that I remember, in September of 2007, the Northern Rock Bank. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to bail them out, and there's a run on the bank. That was the first one that I kind of remember being aware of. But anyway, all that's coming down the line, and he gets in a lot of trouble for telling people that they should just kill themselves instead of seizing the opportunities that are out there for the next 4 to 6 weeks. In September, this is crossing back in with our Mahon Tribunal stuff. In September of 2007 is the first time he's called into the box publicly himself. So now it's all out in the open. This is where he's going through the 17-hour cross-examination over a space of a couple of days. But there's no real answers from this point. You could do another 17 episodes about the stuff that comes out in the tribunal. I think one of the bits we missed in the last one was during this initial examination in September, he gets asked about driving Cecilia Larkin, his partner at the time, to an ATM to withdraw 50 grand in cash in 1995. And he doesn't remember the details of it.
I was too busy driving her mad.
Oh no, he says, they're like, how do you not remember that 50 grand in cash? And he's like, if I was to remember every time I drove up a Collins Street in my life, I'd be doing well. It's not every time you drove down the street. It's the times you drove down there to get 50 grand.
When was that time? Could I actually, you, Mr. Lawyer?
Yeah.
When was that time you spent some time down in O'Connell Street?
In 2023, in an interview from 2023, Ahern accused the Mahon Tribunal of sending him letters late on a Friday evening. He said, they used to send me all these letters every Friday at 7 o'clock just to annoy you. Maybe they knew I was too busy all week. I had a different view. I'd have to spend my Sundays dealing with it. My problem with the tribunal, as I was so busy as Taoiseach, I didn't have time to be able to deal with the hundreds of letters that kept coming at me. That was his only issue with the tribunal, that said that he was massively corrupt. But they'd be sending letters just to annoy you. They'd just be doing it to wind you up.
So I guess, all right, of a Friday, they send him everything that they've got that week.
Yeah.
Which means that every week he's getting...
Yeah, well, also at 7 o'clock in the evening. Yeah. This is pretty funny.
That's like every week to be like, they're probably done now. It's Saturday and Sunday. They're off. Here's all the work that we've got done, boss.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just mainly just saying that you're guilty. Have a look at that.
Oh, you've probably just got one letter being like, come on now. What are we talking about here? But so after this initial round of public interviews in September, the sharks are starting to circle. The opposition party leaders are calling for a resignation. Well, Labour is led by Eamon Gilmore at this point. He calls for Ahern to resign. Enda Kenny, who's the head of Fine Gael at that point, is heavily critical of the rambling, incoherent answers that are being offered at the Mahon Tribunal. So the Dáil comes back after its very long holiday.
That's just your anti-Dublin bias from lads around the country.
That's true. What would Mayo know about it?
Yeah, Dublinese, Bertie's.
I'm not even going to look it up, but so this is the end of September. I'd say if we looked at the All-Ireland results for that year, well, maybe there's a reason why Mayo is a bit salty. I have no idea. Is that true?
Possibly.
Possibly. Let's just say yes, all right? So they come in swinging after their 11 weeks of holidays, right? They're angry at him. There is emotional no confidence, but it gets defeated by 81 votes to 76. So no worries. Support coming in from the independents, Beverly Flynn, Mike Lowry, Jackie Eady Ray, all the classics. That's the opinion of the people in the Dáil, though. Much like at all points in history, they don't have their finger on the pulse of the people because it's not reflected in the polls. People are still pretty pro-Bertie, or at least they don't really care about this. Pat Rabbitte, I don't know what point he said this, but he was talking about the 2007 election and the lead up to it. He said, but in fact, of course, the people were still prepared to give him absolute license. As I said, and I came in for a lot of criticism inside the party for saying it, in answer to a question on TV one night as to why I didn't pursue Ahern's finances during the elections, when I did pursue it after the original story in the Irish Times, I lost 5 points in the polls and he gained 7, and I never got them back. People did not like, whatever it is about Irish people, they did not believe Bertie was dishonest, and they didn't like the Irish Times story, and they didn't like the opposition pursuing it, and they showed that in the polls. So...
How?
When explaining, it's like they were giving out to him, was like, why didn't you go harder after him? I was like, I did, and I lost. I lost opinion.
How could that? How is that true though?
I don't know. He apparently in some TV debate leading up to that, the election we were just talking about, he started questioning all the stuff coming out in the tribunals, and he lost ground.
Well, look,
to Bertie.
There's a time and a place for that. That's what the tribunal.
The leading up to an election is probably the time.
The
and the
tribunal is the proper means for that conversation to happen. I don't think it should be brought up to confuse and conflate what the matter at hand.
Yeah,
who should be running this country?
I was so confused. I went into the poll. I tried to vote for Mahon. It's not even on the box. You know, I was looking at the news and they said yes, no, undecided. But I went into the poll booths. There was no undecided option. I didn't know what to do. I blame Pat Rabbitte for this. So there is no explanation for it. That's just what was happening, I guess.
Yeah. I'd like to talk to someone who was around at the time. Did he do something else as well?
Yeah. Well, Pat Rabbitte.
Yeah.
He questioned our leader.
Was he also caught?
Brave man.
Was he caught cheating at his missus at the same time?
Well,
yeah,
we've seen anything that wouldn't have damaged him in the polls.
Maybe for him.
Maybe for him. That's true. Yeah.
It's not about what you do; it's about how you get away with it.
Yeah. But going from strength to strength, though, despite his first appearance in the tribunal box, or maybe because of it, Bertie figures that this is a perfect time for a raise. They've been doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to see that reflected in the wage package. October of 2007, the government gets criticised for accepting a recommendation from the review body on higher remuneration, saying that senior civil servants and ministers should get pay increases. So his pay went up 38 grand to 310 a year, making it higher paid than the US president at the time and the highest paid head of government in the EU at the time.
Okay.
This is 4 weeks after getting out of the tribunal box for corruption. Presumably he didn't do it in that 4 weeks. It's just bad timing that it came through.
Came out of that
point.
Unscathed. I think it's important to remember.
Yeah, that's true.
That he wasn't found guilty of anything.
Yeah. Now, there's a bit of a backlash. People, it doesn't look good. So in December that year... Is it
because they think he should get more money?
I think so. But in December of that year, they announced that the pay rise would be staggered out. So it's deferred by a year, with the remainder being paid in 2009 and 2010. Spoilers, that doesn't happen because of things. Things don't look so good in 2009. But that is crazy that he tries to get... It would have been the highest paid leader in the EU.
How much money were we bringing in as a country? Was it just one of the, who recommended this?
Oh, who recommended it?
Yeah.
What was that? The review body on higher remuneration for civil servants, which I'm guessing is run by some pretty senior civil servants.
Yeah.
I don't know. But there's public backlash. They listen to the people. They defer the payments. They don't say they won't do them. They just say we'll do it next year. At the time, nurses were picketing against bad work conditions, bad payments, all the same things that it ever fucking is. But in December, he's back in front of the Mahon Tribunal, round 2. All right, round 1, a draw. Well, maybe not a draw, because he'd try and give himself a pay rise afterwards. That didn't go through. But we'll say 1-1.
But the fact he was in a position where he thought he could get away with that, I'm calling that a draw.
That's true. Let's go 1-1. All right.
No contest.
Number 2, this is where we get a lot of the, Why no bank account? How come money plus no money equals more money? Who is Manchester? All the questions. We're sick of hearing at this point, you know. So he's getting hammered over. It's not the usual approach to dealing cash. He says ordinary people, they go into pubs, cash the wage checks. It's not extraordinary. When it's pointed out that he was Minister for Finance, so it's a bit different. He's like, hey, some people put their hair yellow, some people put rings in their nose. I decided to cash my checks. Full stop. Which I know we had in the last episode, but goddamn, if it isn't a great response.
Oh.
Well, speaking of great responses, this is where the wheels are starting to come off a little bit. I'd say, if you were being generous, that it's still 1-1 after the second round. Heading into early 2008, he's getting a little bit shook. This is where, in January in the Dáil, he gives an absolute all-time classic Bertie line.
It is not correct. If I said so, I wasn't correct. So I can't recall if I did say, but if I did not say, or if I did say it, I didn't mean to say it, that these issues could not be dealt with until the end of the Mahon Tribunal. That is not what Revenue said.
So if I did say it, I'm not saying I did say it, I forget, but if I did, I didn't mean to say it. Not that I did say it, but if I did say it, I didn't mean to say it, and it was wrong, but I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, God help the stenographers keeping track of this stuff.
I mean, why do people want to rake a lad with a speech impediment over the coals and look into, like...
I feel like this is his big Kaiser Soze moment, though, that he doesn't have a speech impediment. Well, because he doesn't. He stutters when he's nervous.
Oh, really? You know, public speaking, one of the most difficult things in the world for people to do, Kevin. And you can't give the man a little bit of grace.
I mean... Where were you during these tribunals? He has a hard time in front of people.
Man doesn't have access to the editing ability that we would on this podcast.
That's true.
Do you want to release these tapes in full?
Unedited, yeah. I do often think about that when I'm editing through this. I'm like, and he fumbled his words again. What a buffoon. A clown man. And then 2 seconds later, you know, I have to edit out 6 minutes because I mispronounced salmon. So it's not looking good heading into early 2008. He's up for round 3 in February 2008, and this is where
I thought you said he was notorious for not getting any rounds.
Well, I've got some damning quotes on that in a couple of minutes, but in February, 2nd of February, this is the session where they're talking about that someone withdrew 30,000 from a fund to buy a house, someone associated with the organisation. That goes back and forth a little while, and they're like, who was this person? And it turns out it was his ex-partner, Celia Larkin. Took out 30 grand to buy a house.
Hey, look, X for a reason.
There you go.
You can't get away with that under his watch. You get nothing by Bertie.
No, it was a loan. It was one of those magical loans that seemed to be around him a lot, where it didn't need to be repaid until someone pointed it out.
He's a good man.
So we talked about that in the other one, but this is maybe a bit of a watershed moment, I guess. And he's, although I don't know, because again, we went through all this stuff last time with the polls. It's not being reflected in the polls, but here we have pretty clear evidence that his partner at the time took out 30 grand to buy a house from a fund that was, you know, in the classic phrase, political donation for his personal use.
Which
means what?
I don't understand that one. That's the one I can't.
No one can. There's many articles written about what exactly do you mean when you say that? He's like, well, no, I don't remember saying that, but if I did say it, and I'm not saying I did, what I meant to say is that because of, I don't know, well, there. But also in February, we've got his classic fumble. I think this is probably what really gets him, but this is where he forgets where Cavan is.
R&D base. The new Dell. We're talking about the Republic of Ireland now. We won't get down to. We talk about Cavan another day. We're talking about the Republic of Ireland. If you keep it today.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've watched a lot of footage of Bertie, but that's one of the few bits where he's properly like he's annoyed and he's shook.
Well, the lads weren't giving him a chance to speak.
I know
that he has the floor.
But first term Bertie, second term Bertie, he's not making that sort of mistake. This is Bertie in the middle of, just reading through all the comments that everyone's like, how'd you make that mistake? He's the leader of the country. He is, like, he's stressed. He's freaking out. He's just after, I'd say now at this point, the tribunal is probably one up on him.
Who would have thought that forgetting where Cavan was?
It was the final straw. Well, the real final straw, as we talked about in the other one, is Gráinne Carruth, his former secretary, is pulled into the tribunals while he's gallivanting off handing shamrocks to George W. Bush, a war criminal, let's not forget. And after 2 days of interrogation, or 2 days of being in the witness box, the prosecution gets her to admit to the probability that it was sterling amounts that were being lodged by her into Ahern's account, which contradicts what he had said before. So this, and also the image of, like, you know, his secretary being left behind while he's off in America, is what pushes for his resignation. So on the 2nd of April 2008, Ahern announces that he's going to resign as Taoiseach and as the leader of Fianna Fáil.
Is it really the secretary thing?
Yeah, because that's March, and then right away afterwards when he gets back,
But
the
that's
start of April.
So the nation's just, because I know you said that.
A
in the
woman
last one.
cried.
A woman cried, and that was literally every lad in the country was like, okay,
All right, that's not funny.
This is
anymore.
not funny.
Yeah. They're right, because, well, I don't know. I mean, so going back to September, the opposition called for his resignation, doesn't take. Then he tries to raise his wages. They don't like that. Then he's in the box again. Then he's in the box a third time. This time there's scandals with his ex-partner, seemingly using money from the funds to buy a house. Then he fucks up where Cavan is. Then his secretary is left out to dry. Don't know. It's probably just a combination of all these things. Whatever happens, well, no, not whatever happens, all those things happen. And he comes back from the States and he says he's stepping down. So he resigns after 11 years of Taoiseach, making him the second longest serving Taoiseach after
That's a good
Dev.
run, though. You'd want
a hell of a run.
and you want to pick your time. Varadkar just did the same. We were
Yeah.
like, I know I'm leaving. I'm going to America. I'm getting one more trip out of this.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you get back, you're like, yeah, right, like I'm away.
Oh, I thought because he goes to America at the end of April.
Yeah, but so he does that.
No, even more. So he does this American trip. He resigns, then he goes back again.
Oh,
Yeah.
Double dip in Bertie.
He goes back to. I can't. There's a weirdly edited video of it. He's in Congress. It's mostly applause breaks. I don't know. I can't really. He's over there to talk about Northern Ireland, but they don't.
And you should kill yourself.
Yeah.
And you should kill yourself.
It's just it's like a 4-minute video from some, I don't know, news network, but it's just mostly the applause breaks and then him talking about Northern Ireland and then more applause breaks. But he's in Congress talking to them about. It's just weird because he's just after stepping down in disgrace and they're like, woo! I'm sure in the long form video someone mentioned something, but they're giving him a standing ovation.
Yeah, I'd say people they don't care about the goings on of Ireland.
But it's I know, but it's
they're just
literally
like, that's the leader of Ireland. This is the one time a year
at that point
he
he's
gets a clap.
the former leader. He's literally just after resigning in disgrace.
Yeah, was it a former Taoiseach in Ireland? Does that mean he's currently in charge?
Yeah.
Is a former Taoiseach like a current prime minister?
They said he's a former T-shirt. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it's good to see one of the boys. He can pour a good pound of bass.
He used to be the Taoiseach, and now he's prime minister. He's the former Taoiseach. Congrats. Round of applause for Big Bert.
Big Bert. Well, 11 years. Makes him the second longest serving Taoiseach after Dev. And he's replaced by the former Minister of Finance, Brian Cowan. The country breathes a sigh of relief. Safe in the knowledge that we're in safe hands. Okay. So we talked about this in the other episode, but that summer Varadkar has his a former Taoiseach has gone to the tribunal and essentially given the John Gilligan defence that he won money on the horses. This is a defence for the drug dealers and pimps and not the kind of thing that should be tolerated from a former Taoiseach and member of this house. That's in June of 2008. Varadkar going hard after him. Again, he does row very much back on that in recent times. But the same month, the Economic and Social Research Institute said that Ireland was heading for its first recession since the days of high unemployment and emigration of the early 1980s. Minister for Finance Brian Lenihan tells the Construction Industry Conference that Ireland's building boom was coming to a shuddering end.
Oh.
And in September of 2008, the Irish government officially acknowledges that the country's descending into recession. There's a massive jump in unemployment over the next couple of months.
A shudder and end is a great turn of phrase.
It sounds vaguely sexual.
I was thinking the opposite. It's like the shutters are coming down. As soon as you said shuddering, I was like, like shuttering. Like it's the business is closing.
Yeah.
The shutters are down. Lock it up. Turn off the lights.
Yeah. Don't even bother turning off the lights because the ESB shut down your power 4 weeks ago. You're broke.
And what do you think of that? I'll wrap my head around that in a minute, but that turn of phrase. I get it. Yeah, everything's going to be fucked for 15 years. But
Yeah.
as a mechanism to deliver it.
What a great time for... I didn't read into this too much, actually. But yeah, Brian Lennon like finance minister. That's a big role. This is a big moment for him. He gets into the ministerial position just in time to tell everyone how fucked everything is. So he gets the job in April, and then in September he's like, yeah, goodbye.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Do you want it or not? You're never going to get it again.
Yeah.
He's been pretty much rode out from the history of when you like people of our age.
Lenihan?
Yeah, no, Cowan.
Oh, Cowan.
Yeah.
Wow.
That people kind of just think about the drunken voice, like the hungover voice interview.
Yeah.
That he was just in after Bertie. Everything was going shit, so he probably couldn't fix anything anyway.
Yeah.
Made a tit of himself on the radio.
Oh, he did.
And that was pretty much it. Did he step down just straight away after that?
No. Well, I have that in a little bit. I think it's January 2011 they get replaced. But we'll do the Brian Cowan episode maybe someday. There's not as many. He doesn't last as long. But like from what I've read leading up to this, he was pretty popular. As like people liked him in Fianna Fáil. He was pretty good as a finance minister, or he would have been good if he had a longer tenure as it. No, although I take back everything I just said, because he was finance minister over the time just before the worst time in Irish history.
Yeah.
Well, the worst economic time in modern Irish history so far. But in October 2008, tragedy strikes. Bertie breaks his leg. He falls down some stairs. His brother Maurice Ahern said that he seemed to be fine, but he joked that he neglected to ask him if he'd fallen or if he was pushed. So it's not a good time for Bertie. Exemplified, and this is the reason I kept bringing up the zoo stuff. He goes to the zoo again. Just the contrast. So this is November 2008. The contrast between that and June of 2007. Two zoo trips. The first time they're just talking about like, the nice little baby elephant enclosures. At this time he's there to open a refurbished Houghton house, which is named after Samuel Houghton, the man who invented the hangman's drop. So he's there with in a plaster cast on crutches to open a place named after the hangman. And he says, no longer will any poor unfortunate destined for the gallows have to suffocate slowly at the end of a short rope. So a year previous, there's just like, he's here to welcome to the world the 2-month-old baby elephant calf in the lovely elephant enclosure that Bertie Ahern has so generously gifted us. A year and a bit later, he's like, at least the bastards wouldn't suffer anymore.
Why did they get him?
Thank God, because who better to open a building named after the guy that invented a quick death than... And now disgraced. At this point, the economy is fucked. He is now hobbling. He's got a broken leg. They're like, it would be good for this. Get him up here.
Tell him what you told the trade union. Go on.
My personal hero, Samuel Houghton. At least they wouldn't have to fucking suffer anymore. No longer will any poor unfortunate have to slowly suffocate at the end of a rope. Which, let me tell you, I know a thing or two about. But
was he from Carlo?
Houghton?
Yeah,
maybe, wasn't he? Yeah,
yes.
There was some execution
the guy
guy.
who I don't know if he invented or perfected the hangman's drop.
Yes,
was from Carlo.
Now, also from this broken leg time, we got a pretty good gift grub. I think we were, fairly critical of them maybe in previous episodes, but I did really enjoy this bit.
Well, there's a bit of anterior ligament damage as well. Anterior ligament damage as well, and there are issues with me lower back and down my coccyx. But it should be all right. As long as I don't sit in the same place for a long period, then I think the doctor said it'll be grand,
So you need to be moving around a bit.
I can't be still for that long.
So I suppose appearing at the tribunal would be out then.
Well, that's going to be an impossibility for a long time, Ian. Right. And I think the doctors have warned me that sitting in especially a wooden environment for any period of time is going to be difficult.
So you probably won't be able to go to the matches and all that.
No, I will be able to go to the matches. Because the doctor says that outdoors it increases the blood flow to the leg. So,
right. So if they had the tribunals outdoors, maybe.
Well, that's very unlikely. But and I don't think you'd get the crowds, to be honest. But
that was pretty good.
That's good.
yeah. But
no.
Well, you could hold them outside. I don't think they wouldn't get the crowds. But fair play to them. So This is all, October or November time. In November 2008, Orchie started releasing a 4-part series of Bertie, which we'd watched a lot of the stuff from.
This is where most of my Bertie knowledge came from.
Yeah, so this is not long. Yeah, so November 2008, so maybe like half a year. It's a bad. Things change very quickly. In the space of a couple of months, the economy crashes. All of a sudden, RT is all of a sudden people are coming out of the woodwork to help create a 4-part documentary on how bad of a man he was. In January of 2009,
maybe it was nearly set like 75% of the way there. They're just like, let's get the early stages.
Yeah, because that's a quick turnaround. They must have had something in the works.
Yeah.
But,
well, the early, because I remember the first episode just talks about how great he is at sports. And how much everyone loved him.
They just went back and put like a black and white filter on a lot of scenes. Yeah. It's like, they were the good days until they weren't. In part 2, we get all the same guests back again, but now for some reason they hate his guts. When I said I was his friend in the first episode, I meant more of a casual acquaintance / bribe. In January 2009, the number of people on unemployment benefits goes up to 326,000. The highest monthly level since records began in 1967.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. 326,000.
Yeah.
Over 250,000.
It's a lot of people to become. Now, what had it been 2 years before?
I don't know, but that's the...
Because I know that at some point in his reign, it was the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah. So you got to take the good with the bad.
That was the highest it's ever been.
And you say under his reign, he's not in charge. He's been gone almost a year at this point.
Also, you look at it like this. If that's what he was going for, more people now with the advent of AI, I hear everyone screaming about how soon enough technology is going to be doing everything for us. We can all be happy and unemployed and go and live and pursue our dreams and whatever kind of hobbies and whatever you want to do. Bertie was ahead of the game.
He sure was. If anything, he gave us all the chance to see the ups. He showed us the best and the worst of life in Ireland.
Yeah, he was trying to make it like so that it's like Glengarry, Glen Ross.
He's exactly like
you need to pit everyone against each other
to see
whoever the best one is. There's a lot of opportunities coming out in a time like recession.
And I don't know, people sitting on the sidelines cribbing and moaning, they should kill themselves. And, I'm sure.
Especially if they're not working, because that would bring down the numbers of this an awful lot. If we get that down to about 150,000, it wouldn't look so bad.
So also in January, the Anglo-Irish Bank is nationalised. If you want to hear more about that, you can check out all the Sean Quinn episodes we did. But this is a big blow for the economy. In April of that year, the emergency budget sets out 3.25 billion of tax rises and spending cuts. And by June, support for the government implodes, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the Irish Stock Exchange General Index, which had reached a peak of 10,000 points in April of 2007, fell to 1,987 points in February of 2009.
Jesus, that's a big fall. Now, all of what you were talking about there, what does that mean?
So it's the last time it was under 2,000 was back in 1995, but it's gone from 10,000 to under 2,000.
And low is bad, high good.
Yeah,
so it's just over 80%
in the space of, what did we say? Yeah, less than a little under 2 years. It's not good.
Jesus,
I don't know. I mean, I threw in some of these facts and figures to exemplify. I think people are aware that it's not good.
It's not good.
It's not a good time. But I think sometimes
I just feel like you've brought me to like a mechanic, and I'm just like pretending like I'm a real man, just like kicking the tires.
Which is ironic.
The Nasdaq index. Have you seen the profit loss?
Well, I mean, we grew up in a time where you're just coming. We would have been going to college just around this time. But I think it was only during the Sean Quinn when I was researching that episode. You're aware that like the economy was bad, things were bad. Mm-hmm. But when you look into it, you're like, oh, we were one bounce check away from losing the country. Like, it was really, really fucked. But that's nothing to do with Bertie. He had been gone for almost 2 years at this point. In an interview with Pat Kenny later in 2009, Bertie admitted that he may have made a couple of mistakes with the economy. He said, "I'll make one admission, which I've never made on this.
He's
if you
guilty
ask me
of caring too much, trying to make sure that every man, woman, and child in this country was looked after."
Yeah, if I neglected the economy, it means I didn't care about it. But I did care about it. And by maybe I cared about it too much. Didn't leave the free market to be free enough. He said, "I'll make one admission, which I've never made on this. If you ask me, did I make a big mistake? the mistake that I regret, and it was a decision that we made following discussion, was setting up the financial regulator distinct from the central bank. In my view, if I had a chance again, I wouldn't do it. If I had a decision again today, I wouldn't have done it. So he said that to Pat Kenny. I think we quoted that back in one of the other episodes, but it bears repeating. This is in 2009, he's looking back at his time and doesn't mean anything. It's just empty words. To be like, at the time, they clipped the financial regulator's wings, removed them from the banks, which led to, you know, among many other things, the property market exploding. And then looking back at it to be like, well, you know, if I could do it again, I'd certainly reconsider it.
Yeah, well, look, it takes a big man and an even bigger,
almost admit that he's wrong,
and a bigger politician. How many politicians do you see coming out after making mistakes like that?
That's true.
You know, straddling fucking like generations of a country with this debt and lower quality of life. A lot of lads would try to deflect. A lot of lads would sit there and not take their scolding. He came out openly and said, "Yeah, say it again."
He said. The mistake that I regret, and was a decision that we made following discussion, which is a little bit of sharing the blame there, was setting up the financial regulator distinct from the central bank.
Because he's not a greedy man, I want you to know. That's the thing about Bertie. More than happy to share.
Yeah.
Share and share alike.
By removing them from the bank.
Rising tides raises all ships.
Yeah.
Where did that ship come from, Bertie? The SS Hoy.
The Charlie Hoy's yacht that I've been sailing around in. It does take a big man to almost kind of half-heartedly admit to a mistake that he may have made when he removed the financial regulator from the fucking banks. But, you know, it's not as if he has a degree in accounting from 4 different colleges around the world. But he's taking his lickings. He's taking it seriously. In May of 2009, there's a report run that he's missed 85% of the Dáil votes since he stepped down as Taoiseach. So he's got one of the worst attendance rates. Despite receiving a TD salary of more than 100 grand at the time, he's got the worst voting record in the Dáil.
What people expect him to still care when they've stabbed him in the back like that.
Yeah. Bearing in mind, one of the last times he was in the Dáil, he made a simple human error about where Cavan was. And they jumped down his throat. I wouldn't go back.
To Cavan or the Dáil?
Well, either or. 100k is not worth it, you know. In September of 2009, I think this is my favourite interview that he does. This is a written interview with a guy called Barry Egan in The Independent. I don't know why it's so funny, because Barry Egan writes it like, this is September of 2009, aka the really bad times. People are out for blood against Bertie. And Barry Egan interviews him like he's interviewing someone for fucking the school newspaper. So the interview starts off with, Bertie Ahern can talk with battle-hardened eloquence about the economy, but ask him to discuss whether he still loves Celia Larkin, and he comically clams up. Do I still love her? He says nervously. I don't think any less of her than I did. Does that mean you still love her? Well, we would still be good friends at this stage. This is how the fucking interview opens.
Ooh.
It continues on, is that a yes? Cues absolute blind panic in his blue eyes, which is details that Mr. Regan writes into the interview. It's not
in
to be
his
taken...
striking blue eyes.
It's not to be taken as a yes or no. When you look into your heart, is something still burning for Celia?
Wait.
You do know you can go from being in love to just loving someone, Bertie. I can't believe I'm giving the country's former leader a crash course on the vicissitudes of l'amour. This is the opening 20 lines of his interview with a man who's just ruined the economy.
This is great.
It's amazing.
Right, who...
I don't know.
You said Barry Egan?
Barry Egan.
Does he do... Like, is he
still allowed to be a journalist?
Who wrote the questions for this interview? Bertie?
Yeah, maybe. But, like, the first section of the whole interview is just him asking about, he's able to talk about how he fucked up the economy, but ask him how he fucked up Celia Larkin. And he's all of a sudden blushing like a schoolgirl.
I think we well know at this stage that sex sells.
Yeah. Well, in brackets, I can't believe I'm giving the country's former leader a crash course on the vicissitudes of l'amour. I don't know. It's such a funny interview. And then he tries to like steer into like actually asking him questions about the banking regulation, but he keeps coming back. The whole tone is just that like he's interviewing someone from Westlife or something. Like it's just a gossip column.
Read me more quotes. Like
well, the headline of this article, again in September of 2009, is Bertie Ahern. I don't consider myself a romantic person. Maybe that was the problem. there's been an awful lot of talk. Well, this is just me talking now, but the subsection is basically like, there's an awful lot of talk about how Bertie may or may not have left us all with crippling debt as the economy shuts down, and we're talking about selling the country to the Troika. But who's the man behind the man? And who's the woman left behind? I'm here to ask the hard-hitting questions we're all wondering in 2009 as we can't afford to pay for our children's shoes. What's the deal with him and Celia? What happened there? Let's get into it.
You know that's what you want.
That's not what. He's like...
What else is he going to ask him?
I don't know. He does ask him about the economy afterwards.
Yeah, but like, what are you going to get? He's done the Mahon Tribunal.
Yeah.
You think this is the guy that's going to fucking... like Frost Nixon him?
I don't know. There is one quote from this article where he says, the banks were irresponsible, Bertie admits now, but the central bank and the financial regulator seemed happy. They were never into us saying, listen, we must put legislation and control on the banks. That never happened, which is a very...
The banks seemed happy.
Yeah.
They weren't turning around and saying, why aren't you there for the kids? Why are you working all the time? Where's the money gone, Bertie? What have you done to this family's reputation? Comparatively, the banks seem fine.
The banks aren't asking me where I'm spending my evenings. The bank doesn't want to know where the Taoiseach lays his head at night. But it's also a bollocks thing to be like, listen, they were irresponsible. We tried every once in a while to talk about regulation, despite the fact that, it got rid of the regulator. But anytime we brought it up, they were like, no. So that was the end of that.
Yeah.
That's,
Look, we're a little economy, Kevin. We don't make waves, right? We ride the waves.
Listen, I said it to them. I said, do you want a hand with anything? And they never got back to me, so I figured all was fine.
Did you go back to them? I said, are you sure?
I didn't want to bother them. And let's get back to Celia Larkin. That's of all the interviews I've read with him over the last couple of weeks, that's definitely my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting in it all happens in St. Luke's, and they're discussing over a cup of Bovril, Bertie Ahern's love life. But
Celia, I tell you, a lady in the streets, a nightmare in the sheets, the accountant sheets, Google sheets. If you could, I don't know where she got that money. I signed off on that. Do you still love her? I tell you this, I respect her a whole lot more. 30 grand without my knowing.
Fair play. Without I taught her everything she knows. Another great interview from around the same time, October 2009. I think this is one of the first clips I showed you. It's an Al Jazeera interview with Frost all over the world, where he interviews Bertie Ahern. He doesn't ask him about his love life, but he does talk to him about...
they are going to try and fucking Frost Nixon him.
It's also...
that's what the film should have been. It shouldn't have been Frost Nixon. It should have been Frost Bertie. And it's a day in the life, the week leading up to the interview that Frost has with Bertie. Just every day, he's like, I can't understand a fucking word he's saying. You're going to have to learn so much about the economy. We're not going to get to the economy. I have 4 chances to get to the Celia questions.
I want to find out if his daughter's writing a new book. I want to find out what his relationship status is, if there is time. And that's a big if. I'll ask him about the economy. It's been done to death, all right? But so Frost all over the world on the Al Jazeera network. This is from 2009.
But first, Ireland, which last week voted yes, the second time of asking, in a referendum on Europe's Lisbon Treaty. For just over a decade, Bertie Ahern was Taoiseach of Ireland, the second longest-serving Prime Minister, that's what a Taoiseach is, it's Prime Minister, in the country's history.
Yes, Frost. The confidence of... That's what a Taoiseach is. It's good to take a little moment of levity to laugh at a very old British man. A man whose job it is to talk about political affairs in, what do you list there, like Pakistan, Palestine, know the ins and outs of the world around him so they can feed it to the people. And he doesn't even know how to pronounce the leader of the fucking country right next door to him.
He barely knew how to pronounce Ireland. You had to take a breath.
Ireland.
You had to go pause, really think about it, go, Ireland.
The Belfast Agreement. But there he's talking about the Lisbon Treaty. We haven't got time to get into that was another thing that happened in 2009. We went for the second referendum for the Lisbon Treaty. I've left out a lot of his connections to like the EU, and there's a sort of alternate reality where in 2004 he is offered a big job in Europe, and he could have just left then. And I'd say, I don't know, it's hard to know how things would have worked out. We would have had Taoiseach Brian Cowan before. Taoiseach Brian Cowan in 2004, and Finance Minister Brian Lennon probably.
In 2004.
And then Bertie gone for a couple of years. By the time the Manhattan Tribunal comes around, he's the president of Europe.
Yeah. King of the world.
Maybe a bigger scandal. I don't know.
No, she's too busy.
Yeah. Where the letters wouldn't even find him. He'd be sent it to Brussels. Oh, he's in Geneva. They guess to the Geneva house. What do you know? He's in Stockholm for the weekend. But we can talk about the Lisbon Treaty and the Nice Treaty in some separate episode. But it passes the second time around in 2009. The big takeaway from that is Taoiseach. That's what a prime minister is. In 2009 as well, the Ireland-China Cooperation Council is set up. Bertie spends an awful lot of time in China over the years, doing sort of economic business
Getting
things.
Dublin set up in the sister city for Wuhan.
Yeah. One of the funniest facts that I don't think came out at all during COVID, or I certainly never saw anyone say it, is that in 2018, Dublin was, it's not a sister city, but in the similar kind of, like one step below sister cities, but they're paired with a little city called Wuhan, China, leading into the start of 2019, or maybe even the start of 2020. But we'll talk about this more in the final wrap-up episode. But at this point, now that he's out of the main public eye, he starts getting a lot of odd jobs around the world, but this is one of the more, I don't know, He works as a liaison between China and Ireland and sets up the Ireland-China Cooperation Council. And one of the directors is Dominic Dillon, and another one is Howard Brady, who's Royston Brady's brother. So he's looking after the boys. That will come up a little bit maybe in the last episode. But in 2010, Bertie's autobiography was released, ghostwritten by the historian Richard Aldous. Bertie made over 400 grand from the book deal. He also ended up being counted as tax exempt because he was an artist because of the book deal.
Oh, but surely it's just the book money or all?
Yeah, just the book money. But still, he was on the list of 2010's artist exempt from taxes.
Yeah,
for getting 400 grand for a book ghostwritten by somebody else.
Hold on.
Yeah.
The art of the deal.
Also from the comments, I can't remember where I put this comment from. I mean, you made the same observation the last episode, but from Shamrock135, the man can recall his earliest childhood memories, yet he can't recall if he had a bank account /accounts during the tribunal. Worth every penny of the 400 grand. Mm-hmm. His early recollections of life.
And I wonder how much you
tax exempt as an artist.
Same for the As I Remember It podcast, I imagine. Like anything he would have done like that.
Yeah, that's true. Has he got a Patreon on that?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway,
it's the only all cash Patreon that's ever existed.
Which
and if you'd like to donate to my Patreon, what you can do is come down to Fagan's.
Here's my address in St. Luke's. Slip it into a fiver, post it over to me. So what this only brings further into question his decision to, because he's not strapped for cash, but yeah, in 2010, he makes a cameo in an ad for Irish News of the World where he shows up in a cupboard. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll play a bit of the ad.
Never thought I'd end up here, but I've the latest on today's big match.
Oh. So just inexplicably, he's in an ad for Irish News of the World, which wouldn't be the most respectable of papers.
No, but he resurfaces, is good. That's your man from the actor, and that's the lad from, I don't know, the Tracker Mortgages.
Yeah, it's a great... I mean, that, I'm sure people have written essays about that moment in Irish history, which is just, or that moment in the Celtic Tiger where it's like, you don't need to know what a mortgage is. It's barely important. I wouldn't worry about it. But he gets a little bit of flack for that as to why he showed up in that ad. But I think he genuinely just wanted to be a football pundit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any...
He was writing a weekly column or whatever, wasn't he?
He started writing it for them, yeah. I think he just liked it.
You'd have Bertie and that'd sell.
A lot of people were like, it's, it looks bad because he's doing it for the money. He don't think he was at all.
Every job you do for the money.
No, I think he was doing that for the love of the game.
No,
fucking over the country, he did for the money. But Love of the Beautiful Game. He was just doing that for free. So in December of 2010, he announces that he's not going to be contesting the 2011 general election. At that time, he's asked if he has any regrets. He said, "If I had seen the banking crisis coming, nobody advised me. No economist. All those people now writing books saying I told you so, none of them did." It's not true.
I literally heard Dave McWilliams say the other week, he was like, I remember telling Bertie for years.
Yep. I have an interview with Dave McWilliams. I don't know if it'll fit in here. He's on TV basically in April of 2008, right after Bertie steps down. And it's like, yeah. And at that stage, the wheels haven't completely fallen off the economy. He was like, yeah, he should have known.
Mm-hmm.
But to just be like, no one told me, that's not true. I don't. Anyway, but there's
look, if you want to get everyone else's side of the story, there's 6 million people claiming I was told in advance. You sit down and get every single one of them.
Yeah.
To give you another tribunal. Is that what you want? Do you know how much money this has cost the taxpayer? And they're getting to nothing that I've actually done. I mean,
well, he goes on to say on Anglo-Irish Bank, "I can honestly say that not once did anyone or any delegation that came in to see me ever say, 'Watch out for Anglo.' I wish that they had of." It's just bollocks. But also to be like, listen, wasn't my. I wish you think it's bad for you and you can't afford to. You have to choose between putting on the electricity or eating food. Imagine how I feel. Egg on my face. I wish someone had told me what was going on. I wish one of the people that I'd fired from being banking regulators had come and said there's some issue. Would have saved us an awful lot of hassle. But he steps down as a TD in January 2011. He's getting interviewed outside Leinster House on the 27th of January. And this is which in retrospect is a terrible idea it's not a good time. Again, even worse now heading into 2011 to do interview outside the gates of Leinster House feels like a bad move. But this is what happens anyway.
Bertie, this is going to be your last day in the Dáil today.
Yeah, my last full day. I think I'm told by the whip I have to come in Saturday night, which will be an unusual thing, and then whenever it breaks up, presumably next week. So after 34 years here, practically every day of my life, it is the end.
Will you miss it?
Yeah, kind of. It's not point.
No wages and taxes and all that. Have you no shame? You don't shame yourself at the TV there the last 2 days melting out of yourselves. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you.
Shame on you.
Thank you.
No, it's not thank you. I'm fed up. I'm working, getting me paychecks this week, and I'm getting less taxes, less money by paycheck all the time. How dare you?
That's an anger that most Fianna Fáil TDs are going to face at the doorsteps.
Well, it is, but I have to say outside here this happens every day because people come along here to try and get themselves on TV and radio.
Such a fucking piece of shit. Well, no, that's just part and parcel of the job. She's only pretending to be angry to get in the bit of TV. But yeah, it's the have you know? Had you heard that clip before?
Yeah. There's a handful of the RG ones, same as like the "You're an insufferable bore." Like when that man stormed onto the. Was it the Late Show or was it Frontline or whatever with Pat Kenny? And then yelled that he yelled Dustin's insult. He yelled the Dustin the Turkey's insult. What he used to always call Pat Kenny an insufferable bore. And then so when your man he managed to get all the way up to the stage, got obviously through the security. Yeah. It's on live broadcast and you can say anything you want in the world to Pat Kenny and you go, I'm gonna say what a fucking turkey with a hand shoved up his arse.
Well, he's right.
You look.
No. But yeah, that's him talking. I mean, I don't know why he would do an interview outside the gates. It's a bad idea.
I mean, for moments like that, he's box office Bertie.
He probably paid her to come along. I actually only wanted to get in the radio anyway. But in January, later on that same month, the Green Party pulls out of government, collapsing the coalition. So in 2011, the election sees Fine Gael and Labour join to make the new government under the leadership of Enda Kenny. So in October of 2011, Gil McMillan releases a book, Bertie, Power and Money, where the takeaway I got from that is a quote from Royston Brady saying, "He seemed like a man of the people, yet he wouldn't buy around." This is what we've been teasing now for a couple of hours, but Royston says, "I remember another incident on St. Patrick's Day. There were 4 of us, myself, Dominic Delan, the guy from the China Coalition, and 2 other supporters. We went to the Brian Baru. We went in and I just said, "What are you having?" And Ahern said, "No, I'll stay on my own." So I bought a drink for the 3 lads and he bought his own drink. We had 4 drinks. So it would have been the sensible thing to do to buy a round each. But he bought himself the individual drink on each of the 4 occasions. So I just said to myself, coming away, I said to the lads, because we went into town and had a good few drinks and he went off. I remember saying to the lads, "Did you ever meet such a miserable bastard in all your life? Here he is, the Taoiseach of the country." And you think he would have said, "Look at all the work we do knocking on doors," that he would buy us a few drinks, but not a chance. It's examples like that you remember. And by God, Royston, it is examples like that you remember. That's a scathing review from one of his former friends, Royston Brady, whose brother is also head of the China Coalition. But
this it's subjective. It comes down to personal opinion, your idea on rounds.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say, like last week, we did a live show in Dublin.
Yes.
I went and got my own pint afterwards.
I'm certainly seeing...
I bought you 2 pints during the show.
Yes.
Which hadn't been bought back from me. And then I came upstairs with my pint. And then you jumped in with Gary White and a young Tony Langan and saying, you're not doing rounds. What the already multiple pints owed to me. And then Kevin decides to jump on that moment to fucking bully me with 2 other fully grown men. And then so I'm like, all right, fuck it, I have to go do rounds. Then he says it's his turn for a round. He goes down, card doesn't work, comes back up, uses my card for the round.
I tried using Gary's card, to be fair.
But you had to go and use my card for the round. And those points yet to be paid back.
There's a deficit here. The rounds, I feel like...
And then we went out when we met Ushin for the Troubles.
Yes.
That you owe 1 drink from that as well.
I don't know how true that is, but we'll figure that out after.
I'm putting it all on the record here now, listeners.
So we can keep track of it. This is the trouble of the rounds, and it's really a sign of economic trouble in the country when it's one of the institutions that we hold dearest, and I'm seeing a lot more people bow out.
Oh no, yeah, because I'm not doing. I'm very rarely having 4 pints. If it all comes down to how many lads there are. If there's 2 people, right, we'll do rounds. If there's 3, you all make a decision. I'll be having 3.
All you need is 1 man to break rank and not buy Guinness, and all of a sudden there's
like
an extra.
Grogan's.
Yeah, well, listen, this is the trouble. This is why people are shying away from it. But I suppose his other point of being like they're doing an awful lot of work for Bertie. He's the leader of the country. You think he'd throw out like 4 pints back then? It's not going to break the bank.
No.
Not that he knows anything about.
Maybe, but he knows what's coming down.
Yeah, he's like, I got to hold on to my money.
Maybe it's a case of every single time he might just get 3 pints every time he goes up. Bert, is this for you? Sure, the 1. Go on, take it.
Oh yeah,
and he knows well.
Sure, but these are the things that people remember.
This is. We're still talking about it now.
Yeah. More so than anything else. That's the one thing I'll remember. But in 2012, Ahern resigned from Fianna Fáil just around the time the Mahon Tribunal is about to publish its final report. So he makes the move. Micheál Martin's going to expel him and the other Fianna Fáil people who are tied up in the report. But Bertie jumps ship before that can happen. So the Mahon Tribunal, when eventually it releases its final report in 2012, says that Bertie had failed to truthfully account for a number of financial transactions in the 1990s. It didn't say that they were necessarily corrupt, but that they didn't believe his retelling of the events as to where the money had come from. So Ahern told the Irish Times in 2012, "I have tendered my resignation because I do not want the debate about me to become a source of division in Fianna Fáil." He added, "I'm a resilient person, and in public life you learn to take the knocks, but I am deeply wounded by this tribunal report." In the final report published in 2012, the Mahon Tribunal found that Ahern had given untrue evidence about the source of 215 grand lodged in bank accounts connected to him. And he was gone. And that's the end of Bertie Ahern.
Jesus.
Until February 2023 when he came back into Fianna Fáil. What a turnaround. The country loves a comeback story.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? 11 years.
Wait till you see Shergar.
11 years in the cold and he's back in. And the next... And this will be the final episode. The next episode we'll talk about the winter years when he's out in the cold. What he got up to.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I know nothing about any of that. I imagine
a lot of weird things. Well, for some reason, there's a big demand for disgraced ex-leaders of the country to go on the speaking circuit. He's in high demand.
Yeah, you'd want that.
Like 50 grand a pop.
You have 54 pages of content about Bertie Ahern. You're telling me you wouldn't want to see the man talk?
I would pay 50 grand to get him up on a podium and then just hit him with the hard questions. Come on now. There's no chance you and Celia get back together. Look in your heart. What are we talking about here?
So you're saying there's a chance?
I can't believe I'm teaching the former minister about love, but now Burnham, that's the second last episode. That's him up until he steps down as a politician.
Mm-hmm.
This is we're now going into Citizen Bert.
We've had a good run,
hell of a run. He's at a run. What did he say in that last 34 years?
34 years, yeah.
But now he's not even a member of Fianna Fáil, so probably even longer. Maybe 35, 6.
But it's good to get separation from it. Take your time off. Bertie on the beach.
Yeah. It's time for Bertie. He does do a lot of travelling. He does, he gets a bit of living in. And he comes back 10 years later, wiser, ready to, I don't know, almost presidential, I'd say.
Looking at it now, I was right to clip the financial wings of the country.
Yeah. What have they done for us lately? Now,
the regulator is a really weird one. We're just like, surely you can't. Like, that's just. I don't know anything about economics, but if there was a lad there in charge of regulating the economy,
it's a different time though. And the 1980s is just full of films about renegade cops cutting through red tape and bureaucracy to get shit done, and they were like, the regulators just standing in the way. Warren G didn't need it, so why should we? On the presidential thing, I don't know if I said this in another episode, but I think my current feeling is that he hasn't returned to run for president.
Yeah,
I think he did it. Fianna Fáil wanted him to be back in the party in time for the anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. I think that's the more reasonable explanation.
Just wait, we'll see.
We will see.
There's a chance he might go for it.
There is a chance. I feel like there's not people. I don't know. Anything could happen, but. I think the reason he came in when he did was so that they could parade him around for the 40th anniversary and be like, sure, didn't we do a great job? Mm-hmm. Northern Ireland, there hasn't been any trouble there in a while.
And then everyone will be like, do you know what? Actually, we did do a great job back then. Do you know what? He'd be a great man for.
Yep. So the last time he was out in Arson Route 1 was at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning to dissolve the government in a hurry so that he wouldn't have to face a tribunal for all the crimes he did. Would he even know the way back? Anyway, that's the end of episode 4. We'll be back with episode 5, the final episode, at some point in the next month. Good luck.
Shafter.